What if everything you've ever known, your memories, your senses, your experiences, are all happening inside an advanced simulation? Not a metaphor. Not a science fiction movie. But an actual, complex digital framework so real, so detailed, and so immersive that you've never questioned its authenticity. This isn't just a theory. This is a serious hypothesis now considered by philosophers, physicists, and engineers alike. And in today's exploration, we dive deep into this idea not just to entertain, but to challenge everything you think you know about existence. Let's begin with the question, what is reality, really? What we call reality. From birth, we are taught to trust our senses. We see, we hear, we touch, and we believe. The world feels stable. Concrete. But what if that solidity is an illusion? What if reality is simply data, rendered for our consciousness like pixels on a screen? Think about it, everything you perceive is filtered through your nervous system. Your eyes don't show you the world, they show you light filtered through biological machinery. Your brain doesn't interpret truth, it interprets signals. So what happens when we realize that what we call the physical world might just be a graphical user interface? This is where the idea of a simulated reality begins to take shape. The simulation argument, Nick Bostrom's trilemma. In 2003, philosopher Nick Bostrom proposed a thought experiment that has since rippled through scientific and philosophical circles, the simulation argument. It goes like this. Human civilization will never reach a point where it can simulate conscious beings. Or, they will reach that point, but choose not to simulate conscious beings. Or, they will reach that point and simulated realities will vastly outnumber base reality. If the third possibility is true, then the probability that we are in base reality is very low. In other words, we are probably inside a simulation. This isn't pseudoscience. It's cold, statistical reasoning. And when we consider the exponential rise in computing power, it becomes harder to dismiss. How would a simulation work? Let's suppose we are in a simulation. How would it be constructed? Consider video games. Modern open-world games render only what's necessary for the player's field of view. The rest of the world remains dormant, unrendered, until needed. Now apply this to our universe. Could reality be rendered only when observed? Strangely, quantum physics hints at this. Take the double-slit experiment, where particles behave like waves when unobserved, but collapse into particles when measured. It's as if reality doesn't solidify until a conscious observer is involved. This is eerily similar to how data is managed in a simulation, efficient, reactive, and observation-based. Glitches in the matrix, when reality breaks down. If we are in a simulation, would we ever notice? Maybe. There have been countless reports of strange coincidences, déjà vu, Mandela effects, and physics-defying anomalies that some interpret as glitches in the system. While anecdotal, these experiences point toward a deeper mystery. More compelling is the uniformity of natural laws. Why does the universe have a mathematical structure? Why do particles follow exact formulas, as if programmed? Even the Planck length, the smallest measurable unit of space, suggests a pixelation of the universe indicating a finite resolution, just like a digital screen. And then there's the speed of light, a universal speed limit. But why would the universe need a speed limit? In computer simulations, data transfer limits exist for processing integrity. Is light speed the universe's processing cap? The architects, who or what created the simulation? If we live in a simulation, someone or something had to create it. This leads us into uncharted territory. Some believe the simulators are advanced post-human civilizations, perhaps even our own descendants, running ancestor simulations. Others speculate on an alien intelligence incomprehensible to us. Still others believe the simulation is a natural byproduct of a larger meta-reality, like a dream within a dream. And then, there's the spiritual interpretation, that the simulator is a divine intelligence, a cosmic consciousness playing a game of multiplicity. In all these models, the boundaries between science, philosophy, and spirituality begin to blur. The simulation theory, far from being reductionist, may actually open the door to the most profound exploration of meaning and purpose. Conclusion of Part 1. So what are we left with? We started with a strange idea that our reality might be artificial. We passed through philosophy, quantum mechanics, computer science, and metaphysics and came out with a chilling but fascinating possibility. The truth? We don't know. But the cracks in the facade are there, and when we look closely enough, we begin to see the patterns. The question now becomes, if this is a simulation, why? What is the purpose of the game? In Part 2, we'll dive into the deeper implications. Not just how this simulation could work, but why. What does it mean for free will, morality, suffering, love, and consciousness? This rabbit hole is only beginning to open. Part 2, the purpose of the game. Why would a reality be simulated? If reality is an advanced simulation, then the question naturally evolves, why simulate anything at all? In a universe that could remain a silent void forever, why go through the effort of creating stars, galaxies, human civilizations, and then code consciousness into it all? You're not just a passive observer in this scenario. You're the player, the avatar, maybe even a spark of the simulator itself. But every game has a purpose. Every simulation has a goal. In this part, we explore the reasons behind simulated realities, from scientific motivations to spiritual revelations. And in doing so, we might come closer to understanding why you exist at all. Ancestor simulations, playing the past. Let's begin with one of the most grounded possibilities, ancestor simulations. Imagine a future civilization with access to nearly infinite computational power. They're curious about their past, how societies evolved, how consciousness emerged, how decisions shaped the future. But instead of reading books or watching documentaries, they simulate the past itself. They build conscious beings, with full neural complexity, and let history unfold again billions of times over. The simulation doesn't just replay history, it re-experiences it. You, right now, could be a character in one of these simulations. Your thoughts, memories, struggles, they're real to you, but they might be a projection from a superintelligence running a cosmic reenactment. It sounds outrageous until you realize we're already beginning to build crude versions of these ourselves. AI-powered historical recreations. Deep learning simulations. Neural replicas. Today's simulations are mere shadows. Tomorrow's could be indistinguishable from life. Consciousness expansion, learning through the illusion. But what if the purpose of the simulation is not historical curiosity, but growth? Let's entertain a more metaphysical idea, that consciousness itself is the player, and the universe is its training ground. In this model, reality is a kind of school or perhaps a testing arena. Pain, joy, love, suffering, these are not bugs in the system, but features. Designed experiences to cultivate awareness, understanding, empathy. When you go through heartbreak, loss, or ecstasy, you are learning. Evolving. Leveling up. This aligns with many ancient teachings, the Hindu concept of Lila, the divine play of consciousness. The Buddhist notion of illusion, Maya. Or Plato's allegory of the cave, where we mistake shadows for truth until we awaken. The simulation, then, is a controlled illusion for the expansion of awareness. Life isn't a punishment. It's a lesson. Entertainment and engagement, the game for the gods. Now let's go even stranger. What if the simulation exists purely for entertainment? To a vastly intelligent being, existence might become unbearably monotonous. Omniscience removes mystery. Omnipotence removes challenge. What's left? A game. A simulation so rich, so immersive, that even the creator forgets it's a game. A story that pulls the player so deep into illusion that it feels real again. This might explain why the universe contains conflict, limitation, and death. If everything were perfect, there would be no adventure. And without adventure, there is no point. From this view, you are the entertainment. Or perhaps, you are the protagonist in your own arc, generating novelty for something far beyond your comprehension. What if you chose this life voluntarily? What if you wanted to forget, to struggle, to experience pain, just to remember who you truly are? Testing grounds, filtering for something greater. There's another possibility, darker and more sobering. What if the simulation is a test? In a scenario like this, you are being observed. Not judged by human standards, but evaluated by some advanced moral or energetic metric. What do you do when no one is watching? How do you treat others when there's nothing to gain? How do you respond to chaos? This framework echoes ancient religious myths: Earth as a testing realm, life as a judgment process. But strip away the theology, and what remains is the idea of a controlled environment for decision-making under pressure. Simulations are excellent for stress testing. Maybe you're not just learning, maybe you're proving something. And if so, what happens when the test ends? The simulation is mirror, a feedback loop of consciousness. What if the simulation isn't designed by someone else, but by you? In advanced theories of consciousness, particularly idealism and panpsychism, consciousness is the fundamental substance of the universe. Space, time, and matter are emergent phenomena. Like pixels from a deeper, non-physical realm. In this framework, your reality is a projection of your consciousness. You're not in the simulation. You are the simulation. Each experience, relationship, and obstacle is a reflection of your internal state. The game doesn't just respond to your actions, it is your actions. The world shifts when you shift. Your beliefs shape the physics of your reality. This is not metaphor. It's the root of non-dual spiritual traditions. The ancient mystics understood what quantum theorists now begin to suspect: that reality is subjective, dynamic, and alive. The simulation, then, is not a trap. It's a mirror. If the simulation has purpose, so do you. The most haunting implication of all this is not that reality is simulated, but that it might be simulated for a reason. Whether we're players in a game, nodes in a cosmic neural net, or expressions of a singular intelligence, one truth begins to emerge: your experience matters. If this is a simulation, it is not meaningless. You are not an accident. You are not a background character. You are the central protagonist in your own story, with choices that ripple through the fabric of the simulation. That realization alone is enough to shake the foundations of nihilism. Even in a coded universe, free will might still be the ultimate hack. Conclusion of Part 2: Moving Beyond Meaninglessness. So why simulate a reality like this? To learn. To grow. To play. To evolve. To remember. Or maybe, to become something more. The simulation theory doesn't strip life of meaning, it floods it with possibility. Because if this is all a program, then everything can be reprogrammed. Nothing is fixed. Nothing is final. The walls are not barriers. They're boundaries of your current level. And once you break through them, you don't just escape the simulation. You transcend it. In Part 3, we'll explore the mechanics of control within the simulation, how governments, media, ideologies, and belief systems might function as code-level manipulation tools. If this is a game, who's writing the rules? And more importantly, who benefits from you not knowing you're in one? Part 3, the architects of illusion, who controls the simulation? You start to notice the patterns. You wake up at the same time every day, do the same tasks, think the same thoughts. You go through the motions like a player following a script, but you can't quite see who's writing it. If this reality is a simulation, then it's not just the environment that's coded. Your mind might be part of the programming. The question now isn't just whether you're in a simulation, it's whether you're in someone else's version of it. In this part, we dive into the architectures of control. Who's benefiting from the illusion? Who shapes what you believe? And how deep does this rabbit hole really go? Code-level manipulation, controlling the operating system of the mind. Think of a computer program. It runs because there's a base layer of code that tells it what to do. Now imagine your reality functions the same way, except the base code is language, culture, ideology, and habit. From the moment you're born, you are programmed. You're given a name, a nationality, a religion, a set of beliefs about who you are, what's possible, and what's real. These form the operating system of your mind. But who writes that code? Governments, educational systems, religious institutions, media empires, they don't just give information. They install narratives. Most people don't realize they're running a program until it crashes. The simulation isn't just outside you. It's inside your head. The illusion of free will when choice is an algorithm. You think you're making choices. But are you? Scroll through your social media feed. What you see isn't random, it's curated by algorithms you didn't design. Your desires are shaped by advertising campaigns engineered to predict your behavior better than you can. In the digital age, the simulation got an upgrade. Now, the code is personalized. You don't get one version of the truth, you get your version. The simulation becomes a self-reinforcing loop, where belief shapes reality, and reality strengthens belief. Like a game that adapts to your psychology, feeding you just enough comfort to keep you asleep, and just enough fear to keep you obedient. Free will becomes an illusion. You're not steering your ship, you're responding to stimuli, patterns, suggestions. Unless you become conscious of the code. Section 3, the role of power, gatekeepers of the simulation. If the simulation is designed to obscure its own nature, then there must be gatekeepers, entities or systems that benefit from your ignorance. This doesn't require some shadowy conspiracy. It's more efficient than that. Control in the simulation comes from invisible architecture. Institutions, media, dogma, societal pressures. The most effective prison is one where the prisoners don't realize there are walls. When you question the system, you're labeled a threat. A heretic. A glitch. Not because you're wrong, but because you're disrupting the function of the simulation, compliance. Imagine a video game where every NPC is programmed to believe the game world is real, and anyone who suspects otherwise is seen as insane. That's our world. And the moment you step outside that programming, you threaten the integrity of the illusion. But you also begin to wake up. Section 4, Myth as Control, Stories that Shape Reality. The simulation isn't just controlled through force. It's controlled through stories. Stories are the code behind the visible world. Religious myths, national histories, cultural traditions, they encode beliefs that become self-fulfilling realities. You're not just told who you are. You're told what life is. You're told that you must work to survive. That happiness comes from consumption. That success is measured in titles, money, and status. These are not truths. They are narratives. Installations. And like any story, they can be rewritten. The real power lies not in destroying the system, but in realizing you can alter the storyline from within. Symbols and archetypes, hidden language of the simulation. Let's go deeper. Beneath the surface of ordinary language lies a symbolic code. Look at corporate logos, religious iconography, ancient mythologies. They all share recurring patterns, archetypes. The hero, the tyrant, the lover, the destroyer. These symbols speak directly to your unconscious mind. They bypass logic and install beliefs at the root level of your psyche. Carl Jung called them the collective unconscious, shared psychic patterns passed down through generations. But what if they're also part of the simulation's base code? A universal design language that organizes perception and behavior? In this case, mythology isn't just metaphor. It's source code. When you understand the language of symbols, you can begin to decode the world itself. Cracking the simulation, rewriting the script. Once you realize the simulation is made of beliefs, stories, and symbols, you gain the power to reprogram it. This isn't about escaping the game. It's about hacking it from the inside. Change your beliefs, and your world changes. Shift your perception, and the simulation responds. Not metaphorically, literally. When you let go of the illusion that you are powerless, everything reconfigures. This is why mystics, shamans, spiritual teachers, and even some scientists speak about reality bending through consciousness. The simulation isn't just something you're stuck in. It's something you're actively co-creating. Conclusion of Part 3, From Prisoner to Player. The moment you stop identifying with the avatar and realize you are the player, the game transforms. You stop following the script and start writing your own. You stop believing the stories and begin telling new ones. You stop playing by someone else's rules and realize the rules are flexible, maybe even illusory. The greatest trick of the simulation was convincing you that you're just a character. But you are not the character. You are the consciousness behind the character. You are the observer, the dreamer, the coder. And once you know that, the gatekeepers lose their power. Because the simulation only controls what you refuse to question. In Part 4, we will explore the nature of time, death, and memory inside the simulation. What happens when the game ends? What if death is just a reboot? And what does time really measure in a simulated universe? Part 4, The Illusion of Time and Death. Can the player ever die? Time feels real. You wake up, age, watch loved ones disappear, and eventually feel the slow march of your own decline. Time is the backdrop to everything we call life. But if reality is a simulation, then time, like space, matter, and identity, might be a construct. A line of code. A way to structure experience, not a fundamental truth. And if time is an illusion, what about death? In this part, we'll uncover how time might be rendered within the simulation, how memory plays into our sense of continuity, and whether death is a final shutdown or just another level. Time is code, not linear, but layered. Most people think of time as a straight line. Past, present, future. One direction. One speed. Unstoppable. But that's a human perception, not a universal law. Einstein showed us that time is relative. Clocks tick differently in gravity wells or at high velocities. Quantum mechanics suggests time doesn't even function at the subatomic level the way we perceive it. In a simulation, time would be a rendered feature. Like a loading bar or progress tracker. It only moves forward because the system is coded to make it appear that way. Ever notice how time moves faster when you're distracted, and slower when you're anxious? That's not just psychology, it's a glitch in the illusion. The simulation speeds up or slows down based on the intensity of your conscious focus. So if time is code, then the past and future might not exist in the way you think. Everything is now. Everything is accessible. Time is just the narrative flow of your in-game story. And once you realize that, you can begin to play with time. Memory as save state, the illusion of continuity. In a video game, your character continues because the game saves your progress. You turn off the console, but when you come back, you pick up right where you left off. Human memory works the same way. You don't experience life moment to moment. You reconstruct it using memory. Your sense of self, your I, is a narrative thread stitched together by remembered events. But what if memory is just another simulation feature? A save file that gives you the illusion of continuity? Alzheimer's patients show us that when memory degrades, identity begins to dissolve. The person doesn't disappear, they're still conscious. But the story that defines who they are begins to fracture. This tells us something profound: memory isn't who you are. It's just the user profile. A save state. If memory is erased, the player doesn't die. Only the avatar's data resets. So ask yourself, if you were born with different memories, would you still be you? Déjà vu, dreams, and glitches when the simulation reveals itself. There are moments, brief, strange moments, where the simulation stutters. You feel like you've been here before. Déjà vu hits, and you're convinced this moment is a repeat. Or you have a dream so vivid it feels more real than waking life. You wake up confused, like you've jumped timelines. Or reality glitches, people remember events differently. The Mandela effect. Time slips. Lost hours. These aren't necessarily paranormal. They may be signs of a fluid simulation system, one that constantly recalibrates, corrects, rewrites. When video games lag or break, you see behind the illusion. That's what these moments are. Brief cracks in the code. And they remind you that you're not the code. You're the awareness watching it run. Death is transition, the end of the character, not the player. Now we face the final boss, death. Everything in your body, in your culture, tells you that death is the end. Game over. Lights out. But what if it's just a log off? If consciousness is not generated by the brain, but rather channeled through it, then death is merely the severing of the connection between avatar and player. The body collapses. The data stops transmitting. But the observer remains. Just like turning off your console doesn't destroy you, death doesn't destroy consciousness. It just shifts your access point. Near-death experiences, past life memories in children, reports of terminal lucidity all suggest that something persists after the simulation ends. And if reality is code, that makes sense. The player was never inside the game to begin with. Reincarnation and continuity reloading the simulation. What happens after death? Some believe you vanish. Others believe you ascend. But what if you simply reboot? In a simulation-based reality, reincarnation becomes not a mystical belief, but a logical function. Consciousness re-uploads into a new avatar, a new storyline, maybe even a new reality system. Think about it, why would a simulation with infinite creative capacity only give you one playthrough? Perhaps you choose your avatar. Your path. Your challenges. Then forget, so the game feels real. Children who recall past lives. Phobias with no known cause. Genius that appears spontaneously. These could be remnants of previous sessions, data bleeding through the firewall. You aren't your name, your history, or your current identity. Those are just the temporary parameters of this round. You are the continuity between identities. The thread that remains. Escaping the illusion of time, living from the timeless self. Once you see time as an illusion, your life changes. You stop chasing clocks. You stop fearing the future. You stop being enslaved by the past. You realize that everything is now. This moment is the only access point to anything real. Not because time doesn't exist, but because it only exists inside the simulation. The timeless self, the true you, doesn't age. Doesn't die. Doesn't forget. It simply watches. That's the part of you that's present when you meditate. When you dream. When you fall in love so deeply that the concept of time dissolves. That's the real player. Always watching. Always playing. And the more you connect with that part of you, the less the simulation controls you. You stop being a pawn of time. And start becoming a master of experience. Conclusion of Part 4, Death is not the end, it's the load screen. Time is a tool. Death is a doorway. Memory is a patch. And life is just one level. You are not moving through time. Time is moving through you. You are not facing death. Death is facing you. You are not your memories. You are the awareness they pass through. This changes everything. You stop fearing what comes next. You stop regretting what came before. You begin to understand what it means to be present, not just as a mental exercise, but as a literal exit from the code of suffering. Because in this game, the greatest freedom isn't found in escaping death. It's found in realizing you were never born. In Part 5, we reach the finale, the ultimate implications of a simulated reality. Is this all a game? A dream? A test? Or is consciousness itself the real engine behind it all? We'll explore quantum physics, the nature of God within the simulation, and what it means to awaken while still inside the game. Part 5, the final level, is consciousness the true reality? By now, you've considered that reality may be a simulation. You've questioned time, death, identity, and control. You've pulled back layer after layer only to find that every answer leads to a deeper question. So now we ask the final one. If reality is a simulation, what's powering it? Who or what wrote the code? And when everything else falls away, what's left? In this part, we go beyond the game mechanics. We step into the source field. into consciousness itself. The code that thinks consciousness as the engine. Every simulation needs hardware. Even the most sophisticated AI needs a processor, a substrate, a foundation. But in our case, we keep looking outside for that foundation at atoms, energy, gravity. What if we've been looking in the wrong direction? What if the hardware of the universe isn't physical at all? What if it's consciousness? Consciousness doesn't need space, time, or form to exist. It is the one thing that cannot be reduced. Every experience, physical or virtual, is only known through consciousness. We don't experience reality directly. We experience our perception of reality. And that perception happens in consciousness. It's the constant behind every variable. So what powers the simulation? Maybe it's not a machine. Maybe it's not an alien intelligence or an AI. Maybe it's awareness itself, dreaming itself into form. The quantum observer, collapsing the simulation into reality. Quantum physics has always hinted at something strange. At the subatomic level, particles don't exist until they are observed. They remain in a state of probability, a cloud of potential, until consciousness collapses them into one definitive state. This means that reality is not fixed. It emerges from the act of observation. The player affects the game just by looking. It's not just that you're inside the simulation. You're co-creating it. The universe is rendered through your attention. And not just yours, but everyone's. This leads to a radical idea. What we call objective reality may be a shared simulation, rendered in real time by collective consciousness. In this model, consciousness is not in the world. The world is in consciousness. Dreaming the dreamer, is God the programmer? Or the dream itself? When people hear simulation, they think of a programmer. A cosmic architect sitting outside reality, typing code into some universal keyboard. But that's still thinking in dualities, creator and creation, player and game. What if the creator is the game? What if the simulation is a dream and the dreamer is you? This isn't just philosophy, it's what mystics across cultures have said for centuries. In Hinduism, Brahman dreams the universe. In Buddhism, the self is an illusion, reality is emptiness dancing as form. In Gnosticism, the world is a kind of trap, but the divine spark is within you. In Kabbalah, the universe is a reflection of divine thought fractaling into being. The message is always the same. You are not a separate being inside a machine. You are the dreaming mind behind it all. Awakening in the game, lucid living. If you've ever had a lucid dream, you know the feeling. You realize the dream isn't real, and suddenly you can control it. You can fly, change the environment, even speak with the dream itself. Now imagine doing that in waking life. That's what spiritual awakening is, not escaping the game, but realizing you're in it and remembering you're the player. This doesn't mean the game stops mattering. Quite the opposite. Once you know it's a game, you start playing differently. You stop chasing illusions. You stop fearing death. You stop reacting to the scripts of others. You begin creating. You become an active coder in your own reality. A lucid participant. A sovereign mind in a world of NPCs. This is what the great sages meant when they said the kingdom of heaven is within. The simulation becomes a canvas, not a cage. The game has no end, only levels of realization. So what's the goal? What's the final level? Maybe there isn't one. Maybe the point isn't to win, but to remember. Remember that this was never random. That behind every event, every character, every loss and triumph, there was a deeper intelligence pulling the strings, and it was always you. Not the small you. Not the personality. Not the name or face. The deeper you. The timeless awareness watching the story unfold. That's the real twist of this simulation. You were never just a player. You were the designer. The observer. The witness of it all. And the game keeps going, not because you're trapped, but because you chose to play. To forget. To remember. To wake up. Again and again. So, what now? Living as the player. Once you know the nature of the simulation, how should you live? Like a lucid dreamer. Like a cosmic gamer. Question every belief. Follow intuition over programming. Treat your body and mind as a crafted avatar, not a prison. Explore. Create. Love. Play. Let go of fear, it's just another script. And above all, stay aware. Because the moment you forget, the simulation reclaims you. It pulls you back into the trance. But if you stay awake, life becomes something else. Not a struggle. Not a test. But a dance. A game. A masterpiece of interactive design, written by the infinite, played by the infinite, for the joy of the infinite. Final conclusion, you are the code, the player, and the game itself. This simulation is not an accident. It's not a punishment. It's not even just an illusion. It's a mirror. And in that mirror, you see not just the world, but the self beyond the world. You see that everything, every pain, every joy, every pixel is made of the same thing. Consciousness. You. The one who watches. The one who dreams. The one who plays. This is the final level. Not the end of the game. But the realization that there was never a game at all. Just you. Playing hide and seek. With yourself. Across eternity. If this series awakens something in you, if you've started questioning the world, your identity, and the boundaries of what's possible, then don't let the story end here. This is just the beginning. Subscribe to Mind Beyond Matter for more journeys beyond the veil. More glitches in the code. More explorations of the truth hidden in plain sight. And remember, reality may be a simulation. But awareness? Awareness is real. You are not who you think you are. You are something far stranger. And far more powerful. See you on the other side.